Have you guys heard about this COVID-19 thing?
He's right. He's right.
Talk about a virus. You know what I mean?
He said what we're all thinking.
Brian wants to do a podcast.
Hey, hi, hello. This is Friend Dog Studios, and welcome to Brian Wants to Do a Podcast. The podcast where we can't figure out what kind of podcast we want to do. I'm Ben Auxier.
And I'm Jeff-nominated actor for Best Actor in a Supporting Role in a Musical in a Non-Equity Production House in the Chicagoland area, Brian Huther. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. All right. Brian was nominated.
I was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a Musical in the Non-Equity category of the Chicagoland Area Theater Joseph Jefferson Awards.
Yep. On a show that we were both in.
Yeah, you were a supporting actor in that show as well, weren't you, Ben?
I was.
That's interesting. We both have that. We share that in common.
Yeah, we were both.
The nomination though is not. We don't both share that. It's
both
interesting.
Eligible for that show that we both worked very, very hard on.
Yeah.
So
Maybe I worked harder because maybe everyone who gets something deserves it. You think about that?
You know, I'm fine. I'm totally fine with it. I don't even care about awards.
Okay.
Except for yours. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
So happy for you.
Thank you,
for
Jessica.
Me, I don't care at all.
Jessica, you're the best friend I've ever had.
Oh no, now I'm Jessica. What have I done?
Oh boy, we're Jessica and Chloe, and we're the girls. Oh boy, we're dumb, but at least we do it together. You know what I mean? You know what is pissing me off?
What right
We
now?
can't seem to find what kind of podcast we're going to do.
That's true. That is the whole central gist of this program. This is our 7th episode. We're still trying to land on a podcast concept. Every time we sit down to do this, Brian brings another interesting idea and we discuss it, and we haven't landed on one. I'm going to switch the tables on you this time, Brian. I got a pitch for you.
You do?
It's called Podcastaway. And every episode, we talk about the Tom Hanks film Castaway. And we talk about how lonely we'd have to be to a beach ball.
Wait.
A volleyball.
See, I got to say, I've never seen Castaway. And at this point, I'm about 50-50 as to whether that actually happens in the movie.
I'm going to keep you guessing.
Oh my God, no. I deserve this for what
Just
I did
think
to
about
you.
it.
Okay.
All right. Well, pros and cons. I give it a 5 out of 10. Let's move on. Oh, you got an idea?
Here's my idea this time.
All right.
The conceit of the podcast
Uh-huh.
is we were both homeschooled, relatively sheltered for a portion of our upbringing. I think maybe...
And just to be clear to the audience, that's not like a fictional premise that you're throwing out. That's a
No.
true thing about the two of us.
Look, let me level with you. The real, in fact, facts of the matter is...
Are as such is.
Let it be known to the court that Benjamin and Brian were both homeschooled,
Whereas
Ben and Brian were not necessarily allowed to participate in popular culture in exactly the same way as many of their peers.
Yes.
Whereas that is something unique about their artistic voice, but also sometimes a source of shame and disconnection. Well, I don't know what comes after whereas. Oh, let them be presented with this plaque, which demarcates the construction of the Ben and Brian super awesome space-time zone in space, established 2027.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually have never checked in with you and really about what that looked like for you.
Oh, okay.
Because for me, let's start with me.
Yeah, no, let's start with
Jeff nominated, a supporting actor in a musical award nominated, Chicagoland non-equity nominated award, Jeff man.
Yeah, let's check in with him.
For me, it was like no rock and pop music for a while until eventually they kind of gave up and they're like, okay, Christian rock is fine.
I wasn't allowed to listen to rock and pop, but I was allowed to listen to pop rocks.
Oh.
If I poured them into my mouth and I could hear the little pitter patter of the poppity pops within my face cavern, that was the only sort of percussion that I needed in my life. Those were the rhythms of the streets.
Yeah, but they couldn't be on the 2 and the 4. That backbeat was of the devil.
No.
But for me, it went so far as like most Disney films, because Disney had like Gay Day at Disneyland or something, and it was just a lot of. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff. Harry Potter, of course, was straight out.
Right.
I feel like the big ones that are just sort of surprising are like Arthur. You remember that cartoon, Arthur?
Yeah, the one that was mostly about reading, just like every PBS show.
Yeah. My parents didn't like the little sister's attitudes. They're just like, you can't watch the show.
Wow. My experience, little less restrictive on that. Maybe significantly less restrictive. There were still things that were odd. We weren't allowed to watch Sesame Street. Because my mom saw a man meditating once on Sesame Street, and so that's I guess that gentleman was probably Hindu or something, and so that's no good because that's a different religion.
People will often say to me like, "Oh my God, you've never seen this." I hadn't seen The Nightmare Before Christmas. That was very much like not okay to watch.
Sure.
I'd never seen. I mean, they're all over the place, but it's hard to come up with specific examples.
But what was your first R-rated movie?
Oh, God, I don't even know.
You don't know?
I don't know if I could tell you.
My very first R-rated movie was seen with my parents' consent, and that was Mel Gibson's The Patriot.
Oh, The Patriot, not The Passion of the Christ.
No, then that was probably the second one.
The Patriot of the Christ.
So basically, if total insane anti-Semite Mel Gibson made it,
yeah,
it was okay to watch.
If it's
an R-rated movie.
if it's disturbing and violent, but it's about nationalism.
This is the irony, is that whatever message The Patriot actually had went totally over my head. I don't
totally
know.
over your head, like a cannonball knocking off
someone's head, which is exactly what
happens. And then
happens
Tom
in The
Hanks
Patriot.
comes along and the cannonball?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you wondering.
Have
you
never
seen The Patriot?
Never seen The Patriot.
Okay, well, a cannonball does blow someone's head.
That's the
clean
only
off.
thing I know about The Patriot.
Yeah, that's like the only thing I remember about it. Try and ask me what the point was. Ask me what the message was. Ask me what the character's intentions were. No idea. Dude's head got blown off by a cannonball.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
So here's the concept for the podcast.
Yes.
I think I would like a guest
Oh, okay.
each episode to come on the show, and they would pick one of their favorite things that I have never seen.
Okay. All right.
And hopefully you have also never seen it.
All right.
And then what would happen is they would tell us the story of that movie or TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And we would try to improvise what that sounds like it is to us.
What's one of the big ones that comes up for you a lot?
I feel like we need a little internet research.
Okay.
So I want to find, what would I search for to find a list of like must-have seen films? 90s nostalgia films. We'll see which.
Oh, okay.
So here's like Clueless. Never
Right.
seen.
That's one I've never seen either.
Neither of us have seen the movie Clueless.
Yes.
And that seems like the kind of thing that someone out there is probably like, Clueless is such a part of my youth. You must have seen it. Oh my God.
Right.
Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
And they would tell us generally what.
But ironically, we're clueless about Clueless.
That's so good, Ben. I'm proud of you.
We're clueless.
I love it.
Clueless.
Yeah.
We're
It's
the
so
Ku
good.
Klux Klan.
You know, don't
Wait.
say that.
No.
Don't say that.
A rich high school student tries to boost a new pupil's popularity, but reckons without affairs of the heart getting in the way. What?
But reckons without affairs of the heart?
Whoever wrote this IMDb summary did a very bad job. Here's a different one. A little further down, and it's a little more fleshed out. It's one paragraph. Here we go. Cher, a high school student in Beverly Hills, must survive the ups and downs of adolescent life. Her external demeanor at first seems superficial, but rather it hides her wit, charm, and intelligence, which help her to deal with relationships, friends, family, school, and the all-important teenage social life. I'm still not really getting a sense for what the plot of this is, but
I have some points here. Cher first coaxes two teachers into dating each other.
Oh, okay.
She gives hopelessly klutzy new student Ty a makeover,
Oh, okay.
who becomes more popular than she is. And she realizes that her ex-stepbrother was right about how misguided she was, and then she falls for him.
Wow.
Okay, so she coaxes two of her teachers into dating each other.
Got that. She helps her friend. She gives her friend Ty a makeover.
Goes from not to hot, becomes super popular, and then she falls for her ex-stepbrother.
After he leads her to realize what?
I think he told her at the beginning, like, you can't go changing the social systems at your school and meddling.
Don't go changing waterfalls.
Yeah, don't go changing waterfalls. And she was like, no, I can do whatever I want. I'm going to meddle in people's affairs. Okay. And then when someone else becomes more popular than her, he's like, I was right. And she's like, you were right. Now kiss me, you fool.
Whatever. We'll get into it in the reenactment.
Yeah. Let's see. Her father, Mel, is a $500 an hour litigator. Her mother died during a routine liposuction.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay. So the Paul Rudd character, who's the ex-stepbrother, is socially conscious. And those are just some specifics. That we know.
Great.
Okay. So we would get some information, something like that. And then we would try to recreate the film Clueless. Slow push in from a high angle on Beverly Hills High School. There are big trees and poodles running everywhere, and very attractive high school students rush into the building as the bell goes.
Someone skateboards by and knocks a book out of the hands of a slightly nerdier looking kid who goes, hey!
Yeah, we think we'll never see this kid again, but little do we know. Next, we see a shot of very attractive Cher walking down the hallway in a mink coat. So Cher is carrying a stack of books, and then she just tosses them over her shoulder and snaps her fingers, and then like a cadre of other beautiful women come and sort of make a flying V behind her.
Hey, Cher, so good to see you.
What's up, Cher?
Did you hear about Popular Event? I hope I'll see you there.
I love Popular Event, and I've got some big plans for it.
Hey, notice that guy over there? I think he's looking at you because I'm using my eyes to confirm it.
That's my ex-stepbrother. He's socially conscious. It's a weird between us. We always fight about stuff.
Cher and Paul Rudd close they're putting stuff into their lockers, which are right next to each other.
Okay.
She's arrived at her locker and she's putting it in. And Paul Rudd says something like, "What's up, Barbie? Out there being a Barbie type person?"
I'm just trying to have a good time in my life. You think you can change everything about the world? Well, I'm just going to have fun. She tries to walk away, and then she like steps on a poodle, and she's like, oh.
Paul Rudd slowly shakes his head, puts a lollipop in his mouth, and heads to class.
Okay. Now we cut to a classroom where all the students are waiting, and Cher is sitting there waiting, and she's like, she's got, what does she play with that looks cool?
She's probably just doodling in like a Trapper Keeper.
Oh, no. That's too creative. She's got to be doing something aloof and uncreative. Like she's
filing her nails.
She's filing her nails. We see a pan across the school classroom, and all the students are just like clearly waiting in their board. And then all of a sudden, into the classroom comes a teacher who is like clearly just like, oh, sorry, I'm late, everyone. If you could open your pages to trips over something, it falls in his desk chair. He says, oh, okay, sorry, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I just said I'm so lonely. I'm such a lonely person.
Is it just me, or is Mr. Thompson like a total spaz?
I have so much to give. I'm 6 feet tall, I've got abs of steel, and my hair is just starting to gray on the sides, and it's sexy. I'm aging like a fine wine.
Look, who cares if he's a spaz? We never get anything done in this class because he can't focus. That's my point, Melissa. If I don't get good grades, I'm not going to be able to go to college school, and this guy is holding me back.
Okay, well, we need to do something to make his life a little bit better. Why don't we set him up with with Mrs. Grayson, and they can go on dates and they won't be lonely anymore. Cut to the Paul Rudd character is in Mrs. Grayson's class and they're doing home ec. He's got an apron on and they're learning how to baste a chicken. Is this anything like the movie?
Mr. Rudd!
My name's something else.
It doesn't matter. I'm going to get confused if I try to call you a character name.
Okay.
So your name is Mr. Paul Rudd.
Great.
Mr. Rudd, will you please focus on what you're doing?
It's just that I don't eat meat, Mrs. Grayson.
You don't have to eat it. You just have to baste it. Now let's go.
Fine. I guess I can stand here while my partner does it. And then we see that the person standing next to him is the most awkward girl with braces and glasses, and her hair is done up in a dumb bun.
This is Ty.
This is Ty, and she's the least popular, clumsiest girl in school.
Paul Rudd casually hands her a baster full of basty fluid.
She puts it on the chicken, but she puts it upside down. He puts it upside down and pushes it in, and it all sprays over both of them.
Right.
And she does her classic catchphrase, oh, Ty. Wait, no, I can do better. She does her classic catchphrase, oh boy, I better tie again. Sorry, Paul Rudd. I just got basting fluid all over you.
Yeah, it's fine.
What are you doing in this home ec class? This home ec class is like for girls.
I'm sorry. Are homes for girls? Last I checked, everybody lives in a home.
I guess you're right. Everyone lives in a home, so everyone should have to ec it.
Put that on a tattoo and smoke it.
What does that mean? Have you ever noticed that Mrs. Grayson yells a lot?
Yeah.
What do you think that's about?
I think she needs to get laid.
Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. What did you say, Mr. Rudd? I heard you yelling a phrase.
I said I just got sprayed.
By the basting fluid, eh?
Uh-huh.
Yes, you did. That was pretty smooth there, Paul Rudd. How did you learn to be that smooth?
This jacket taught me.
The jacket? Wow. Tell me more about how that's a thing.
Every time you are in one of these movies and you have a leather jacket, it imbues you with a certain kind of aloof wisdom.
How does it talk to you? Does it use a voice or does it spell out words?
When you take a zipper and you go zippy, zip, 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 it creates different tones. That variation in tonality can sort of mimic a language.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Maybe I should get a jacket like that so I can be cool, too. I'm on a mission to become cooler than I am, but I don't think it'll ever happen because I'm just the klutziest girl in the whole school. Hey there, this podcast is brought to you by us and sponsored by us.
More specifically, our patrons on patreon.com/frienddog. This is the part of the show that we customarily set aside to tell you about that and ask you for your donations. Right now, we're not really pushing those donations very hard because everybody's got crazy stuff going on. I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but the weather is getting slightly warmer.
That's causing a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Also, have you heard about this virus? Apparently, there's a virus going around.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's called the Y2K bug.
Did a bait and switch.
You remember that? You remember the Y2K bug?
Yeah.
Everybody was like, whoa, numbers.
Yeah. And that turned out to be totally fine, which means there's never any reason to worry about anything or take precautions ever.
Under normal conditions, we would say, hey, go to our Patreon and toss us $1 or $2 every time we release a thing and money in the tip jar, all that. And we would still really appreciate that. But if you got money to spare right now, there are more urgent needs than us. But if you got a little time to spare, you could review and rate the podcast on whatever platform you use, whether that's Ear, Tooth, or Saw Catcher,
I Listen,
Radio Pumpin',
Jabberbox Dum Dums,
Static Bait,
Ear Fucker,
Pod Buddy,
Audiono,
Here's Potty,
Just Actually the Radio.
whatever it is. Go ahead and give us how many stars you think we deserve.
So hit us up, Friend Dog Studios. We're all over the internet. If you got a ton of money, patreon.com/frienddog. If you don't have a ton of money, maybe take the extra money you do have and give it to real charities. And if you can't do any of that, well, that's just fine. Why don't you just sit your own butt little down and enjoy the rest of our podcast, which is this. In the lunchroom, Cher is sitting at a table with a gaggle of gagglers.
One of the gagglers has a pair of binoculars, and she's just like barely at the level of the lunch table, and she's peering over some baloney, looking at the hallway to see if the teachers are there. I don't see them yet. Maybe they're just crying in their classrooms.
They'll come. They always come on Meatloaf Wednesday.
Oh, I hate Meatloaf Wednesday. It's like, meat, okay, but loaf? I'll do that at home. Thank you.
Paul Rudd comes in. Loaves are the good part. Meat's the objectionable area.
Why don't you shut up, Paul Rudd?
Why don't you kiss me later?
Oh.
And off he goes.
Are we too cool for him? Is that how... Just can you show me the flowchart again?
No. Right now, we have to focus on getting Mrs. Grayson and Mr. Other Teacher together.
Look, there they are. I found them. They're walking down the hallway. Oh my God, they're almost walking next to each other.
Did you pay off that nerdy kid to do that thing we discussed?
Yeah, absolutely. The nerdy kid walks into the hallway with the terrarium, and it's got the class gerbil in it. And drops the gerbil on the floor. The gerbil scurries and skitters about, and the two teachers start flopping around with their hands and their legs, trying to avoid getting touched by it, and also trying to catch it.
Yeah, I got it. They start to yell as they scramble around.
We see it. It's a classic 90s romp of an animal skittering around a place an animal's not supposed to be. It bumps into stuff in the cafeteria. Food goes flying. One kid says, "Food fight!" It starts throwing Jell-O at the other kids. It's absolute 90s chaos.
And then, finally, against a background of absolute chaos, the two teachers' hands each grab the gerbil. It's squeaking and it's shaking a little in a slightly unrealistic way because it's obviously a puppet.
Their heads raised from the gerbil, and they see each other. And she sees the tear streaks down his face. He sees the anger lines on her face from years of yelling. And they immediately go in for the kiss. They kiss in the midst of all this crazy stuff. We see a slow motion shot of Jell-O just barely missing their faces as they smooch on the cafeteria floor.
Yes, there are sound effects like you would see in a war movie.
We see children diving into foxholes that have suddenly appeared on the linoleum floor.
Yes.
Cut to detention, and Cher and some of her girlfriends, along with the nerdy kid, who was Ty, are sitting around in the detention room, and they say, "Ty, why did you have to give us up to the principal?"
I'm sorry. It's just that I didn't want to be tied and convicted.
My dad is a $500 per hour litigator. And you know what he says?
What?
Lies make pies. And by that he means money pies.
How's your alive mother?
Oh, my mother died. Don't bring it up.
Look, I don't want to take any more time than I'm allowed, but I just wanted to say thanks for including me today. It was weirdly the highlight of my week.
Close up on Cher, and she's got a smirk in her eye and a smize upon her face, and she looks like she's gotten herself a crazy idea.
Ty, she says, if at first we don't succeed, tie again.
Montage! We've got clothes, we've got lipstick, we've got makeup, we've got glasses coming off, we've got makeup going on, we've got hair coming down, we've got girls trying to put her hair up, trying to put her hair to the side, trying to put her hair all sorts of ways, standing there going,
They take some pictures with an old Polaroid camera.
They put a poodle on her head.
She accidentally steps on the poodle in the midst of this and goes,
Paul Rudd walks by the doorway and sees the poodle skittering around, and he just shakes his head shamingly,
sticks his lollipop back in his mouth, and off he goes.
He starts zipping on the jacket just like and he straightens up his posture.
The beauty montage starts to come to a close. We see Ty with Cher standing behind her, and they're both looking in a mirror at Ty's new look.
They look eerily similar, which is a strange new development. And they sort of look at each other like, oh my God, it's like we're twins all of a sudden.
Cher says, well, not twins, like sisters, like an older, prettier sister, and then, her sister.
Ty says, oh, okay, sure. I don't have the confidence that you do. And one of the other girls says, like, oh my God, it's like I couldn't even tell them apart. I wonder what might happen if they get mixed up for one another.
The next day, we have a sequence that was much like the opening sequence where they're walking down the hallway. Kid goes by on a skateboard, all of that establishing stuff at the school. But this time, the gaggle that usually follows Cher in a V formation, geese-like, has found its way toward Ty, and they seem to be following her because she has all the looks now, but she's a little less mean.
And Cher comes out of a doorway and looks at her handiwork, and she's like, yes, I did so good. They walk past, and then Cher does the same thing that she did, where she comes out, she tosses her books over her shoulder, and she snaps, and then she starts walking confidently, and then she looks, and nobody's around her. All of a sudden, Cher's been abandoned by her popularity. Her success and her status in the school has suddenly been undermined by her own activity that Paul Rudd definitely said not to do. And we hear in a flashback Paul Rudd's voice saying, "Don't go meddling in the status quo unless it's about not eating meat."
Suddenly, everyone goes into class. A bell rings. Cher is standing alone in the hallway, bereft, left with her thoughts. A locker slams closed. It's Paul Rudd. He says, "How'd that work out for you?
Why don't you just shut up, Paul Rudd?
Why don't you just admit that you don't have it all figured out?"
Actually, you know what? Some of what I did worked out just great. And we see the two teachers in the background just kissing and like making out hardcore as they pass by one of the hallway doors.
And then Paul Rudd says a very 90s-ish thing like, "I did not need to see that."
And she says, "What, are you afraid of kissing and intimacy and, all that stuff that people do?"
"I'm not afraid of anything, Cher," the girl who's named after one of the most famous musicians in the world, who pretty much is the only other person with that name.
Listen, Paul Rudd, do you even fuck? Like, do you?
"Yeah, I fuck. I fuck all the time. I mean, when I want to, and she does too. You know what I mean?
Who? Who do you fuck?
Girls.
Oh.
Women.
Sure.
Women.
Sure.
And then they kiss."
They kiss immediately. It's just like, They make out, and the two teachers look over, and they're like, they look to each other with a shrug and like I don't know on their face.
And then
they start making out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then out of one of the doorways, Ty comes a running, and she's like, "I did the baster thing again!" And she's got turkey basting fluids all over her white fur coat, and all the other girls are peeking out of the doorway, and they're going, "Ha ha 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 ha! You're so clueless!"
And off runs the poodle down the hallway.
Fade to black, end credits. That's how the movie Clueless goes.
Brian, what kind of music did you listen to when you were growing up?
Gosh. So for the longest time, I didn't listen to anything really.
Just
and then
sat in a room with earmuffs on.
So and then I started listening to some like lighter sort of pop rock Christian music. Like I listened to this band FFH and listened to like
For Friendly Heroes?
No, it was called
Family Faith Healing.
Pretty good. It was
50 fucking hours.
That was it. They were called 50 fucking hours, but then they crossed over to Christian music industry, and they had to change it to just FFH.
Oh wait, can you sing me an FFH song?
Oh yeah, totally. There was one that I loved so much. It was like the first song I ever truly loved. And it was called One of These Days. And the chorus was like, one of these days I'm gonna see the hands that took the nails from me. One of these days I'm gonna hold the key to the mansion built for me. One of these days I'm gonna son built for me. One of these days.
One of these days, I'm gonna go lose 10 pounds and keep it off. And
One of these days, I'm gonna finally read the book that I've been meaning to read.
One of these days, I'm gonna download a dating app and keep it on my phone for a month.
One of these days, I'm gonna finally forgive myself for what I did.
One of these days, I'm gonna turn myself into the police and confess it was me.
One of these days, I'm gonna get super ripped in prison.
One of these days, I'll then escape and extract my vengeance on everyone else.
One of these days, I'm gonna build myself a mansion with my blood money.
One of these days, I'm gonna run a drug empire from that place.
One of these days, I'm gonna have an enmity nemesis relationship with a superhero.
One of these days, I'm gonna be the climax to a Marvel film.
One of these days, I'm gonna invent some kind of scientific thing that could destroy the planet.
One of these days, I'm gonna scatter the keys necessary to make it operate across different parts of the galaxy.
One of these days, I'm gonna make sure that nobody can ever collect them by destroying the means to try space travel.
One of these days, I'm gonna forget that someone has a clever and dastardly plan to recover them.
One of these days, they're gonna defeat me with that dastardly plan and kill me, and I'll go to heaven.
One of these days, none of this will have mattered because Jesus forgives all sins.
One of these days.
That is my favorite filthy Frankfurt hors d'oeuvre song.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. Should we do prawns and cones?
Yeah, probably.
So the idea is that we invite somebody on the show. They identify something that they loved in their youth, that they remember a film, got to be a film or a TV show, something with a story.
Yeah, something
And
narrative.
They tell us about it. It's something that we've never seen that a lot of people have. And then we try to tell that same story just after hearing a brief synopsis of it.
Yeah, we're going to try to reconstruct things we've never seen. So it's going to be called Just Us is Blind. Nope. It's going to be called the Clueless. It's going to be called No View Review.
It's going to be called Unsheltered. It's going to be called We Never Saw It.
It's going to be called Movies We Never Saw.
Movies We Never Saw is not bad. I mean, it's not funny, but it's also pretty much gets the point across.
Prawns and cones, cones and prawns. For anyone who, for some reason, has just skipped the last 2 episodes, first of all, why? What are you doing? There is a coherent cinematic universe that's being woven here. And
you missed a lot of important
you
stories.
You need to get every bit of it into your mind. But if for some reason you have, we used to call this pros and cons. Now we call it cones and prawns. And just to be clear, there's no clarity because there's a little bit of ambiguity on which one means which thing.
And if you ever try to nail it down, I will put down these headphones. I will walk off this podcast and never come back.
Oh no, he's just going to keep walking forever. He can't find his way back.
So any prawns and cones for you?
Yeah, I think cone is that people like nostalgic things, and it's easy to bash that, but I don't think it's necessary to bash it. Like revisiting a property that you're nostalgic about through a new lens could be very interesting. There could be an audience there.
Yeah, I think that one of the prawns is that we would have in just about every title like a commonly searched title of a film.
Yes.
Which is just to say that we're not like the podcast concept goes with the flow of culture instead of against it.
I think a prawn is, or no, here's a prawn, Brian.
Yeah.
It's a workout that we did just there. It was a mental workout and it was good. It was I would like to get better at doing that.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun trying to do that whole narrative.
But the improv, the improv part of my brain and the story writing part of my brain were really working hard to create some kind of treaty to get this thing to run smoothly.
Right. So for you, is that a prawn or a cone?
It's both.
Okay. Oh, I think another prawn is that we can have guests on the show.
Yeah, we could have guests on the show, and that's interesting. It's always cool to talk to someone who isn't you.
Who isn't me specifically?
Yes.
It's always cool for you to talk to someone who isn't Brian.
Yes.
That's weird because I'm a Jeff nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a Musical in the non-equity Joseph Jefferson Awards in the Chicagoland area. Seems like somebody I'd want to talk to.
Huh.
Yeah, in fact, I am. You could Google it right now.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead and take your word for it.
I think that this is also a fun way for me to never have to go watch these movies. When everybody says, I say, I've never seen Clueless, and they're like, oh my God, you've never seen Clueless? You have to watch it.
Okay,
and I'm like, I could give a fuck.
Well, when somebody says, have you seen Clueless? You say, no. Have you listened to the episode of my podcast where I guess what Clueless is?
No, but
no. Then stalemate.
Yeah.
I think one prawn would be that the market is fairly saturated for podcasts about movies, but
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of movie podcasts. This seems like a different movie podcast.
This
though.
is a new approach. So
that's good.
that's a prawn.
Okay. Okay, Wyatt Burp.
What you're hearing right now is the sound of me leaving this podcast, never to return.
We don't acknowledge puns on this podcast.
We don't acknowledge them. We don't negotiate with terrorists. So, Brian, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being can't do this podcast, won't do this podcast, 10 being this is the next big idea, it's going to make us rich. Where do you stand on this idea?
I'm going to give it an 8. I've been rating a lot of these podcasts very highly, but I just have great ideas.
Well, yeah, I've been rating them fairly. I don't know. It feels like towards the beginning, there were some mid things for me, and then they started to rise, and then we did one a few weeks ago that got a 1 from both of us, and now we're back up.
Maybe I need to start bringing some worse ideas.
Not possible, Brian.
Okay, well, what did you rate it?
An 8.
Okay, that's pretty bad for you, huh?
Burn. I don't think through my burns so many times. I don't always think through them.
You know, you saw the opportunity and then you had to quickly admit the burn was not
I did
real.
exactly what when I would teach like sketch writing classes, I did exactly the thing that I would always tell my students not to do, which is don't go for a joke that negates the larger premise of your thing just because it's an available joke. And that's what I did. I did that.
Just a first-degree burn.
First-degree burn.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, an 8 and 8. We got 16 and that's pretty good. A 16. You know, Brian, I think you've got one more of the original 8 ideas that you had brainstormed. Is that right?
That's right. So maybe we've got our perfect 10 in there.
Maybe the next one, maybe episode 8 is going to be the perfect 10 and there will be no more ambiguity about which idea we're going to go with.
It's not a better idea than the others. Like we didn't save the best, like we're just doing whichever one. So
yes.
It's like just the last one we have to get to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're doing the scientific method, which the scientific method is just talk at random until somebody gets excited.
That's true.
That's how science works. That's how we develop medicine.
Yes, it is. Oh, by the way, I have a new sign-off phrase.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you...
I say stay horny, everybody.
Okay, well...
That's what I'm thinking.
Kind of gave it away. I was going to give you the chance.
Well, I want people to feel prepared for it. I mean, it's sort of an intimate, personal thing.
Well, for non-equity Joseph Jefferson Award nominated actor for the category of Best Supporting Character in a Musical, Brian Huther, I'm Ben Auxier saying thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode of Brian Wants to Do a Podcast.
Stay horny, everybody.
Unsettling.